Hello everyone, welcome to AI Anytime channel. In this video, we are going to develop a SaaS application powered by generative AI. We'll see that how we can combine different techniques, frameworks, libraries, and tools to build a software as a service app that will help you build an end-to-end application, and you can also kind of integrate that with some payment gateways, authentication, etc. To also make it commercial. That's what the agenda of this video is. Okay, and in this video we are going to rely on services like Stripe and Azure OpenAI and some web technologies and a database. So let's jump in. So currently you see on my screen we have a sign in page here where you can sign in with your credentials. I'm just going to sign in. I'm going to sign in with my credentials here. Now, once I sign with my credential, it takes me to this page here, which says Code Bug Fixer as a Service. Okay, so this application is mainly for software development lifecycle. You have use cases where you're working with, fixing code refactoring, looking at code and how you can find out the bugs in that code, or if there is any bugs, how you can explain that bug and also, resolve that bug. Okay, so this we are going to build using Azure OpenAI, and we are also going to integrate that with Stripe, which is kind of a payment service provider. And we also have a database that helps you authenticate and also look at your like the browser ID and something called fingerprint that we will discuss in detail. Now here, you can see a couple of options. The first is something called enter code, and the second is enter error. Now you want to build a software as a service application for software development lifecycle, HDLC, the most sought use cases in generative AI in industry right now. How you can build some kind of services. You can also have your own ventures if you are looking at in these areas. If you have all the compute power, you can also do it with open source models. You can deploy those models on AWS, Azure. I have those videos of deployment. You can bring all this together inside a platform and you can make it a commercial. You can build a product and sell it off. So this is what the plan is in this video, but not on that scale. But of course, you can get the idea from here and scale it up later. Now here in this enter code, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy a few code options that I have handy. So here you can see if this is my code, I'll just put this code here. You can see this is basically a pandas data frame. We are loading a data frame in pandas and we are trying to see. Now if this is your error, I already have kept it to just to save some time, just to show you the idea behind the app. Now suppose this is your error. Similarly, nowadays you've been using ChatGPT. You getting any error, you go and say, okay, here is my code and here is the error, just solve it and give me the correct code. Now what if you want to build a service that you can build it using open source model or a closed source model and you can sell it off? How you can do that? Because most of the time what happens is that not all the clients would like to send their data to ChatGPT, right? They will look for, because their code will be really proprietary, they want to build something in-house. So how you can build that service for when you are looking at data protection and privacy as a factor. So if I click on fix code, now once I click on fix code, what you can see is that it says the first of thing is the error is that the code is trying to use pandas instead of PD to call the read CSV function. As you can see it over here, the correct way to call the function is PD read CSV, and here is the correct code. But again, you can have a look at this one of the example. Now what I also want to show is if you click on reset, it gets reset. Now if you go back to, let's see this function and see what it says. Now if I just copy here and I come back and I paste this answer here, which is an error, by the way, not an answer. But now if you click on fix code, what it does, it try to see what's the error is. It explain the error. You can see its explanation, and it also fix the code over there. You can see the fixed code and the respective explanation for that error. The variable var1, which is variable 1, is being referenced inside the function even before it is defined or assigned a value within the function. So one of the example, why I'm showing you this example, because after 3 and 4 hits, I forgot the exact number, I have to see the code, it kind of, your free trial will get end and you will have a pop-up bar where you have to pay money to Stripe payment gateway, and then you will get the access. So we also have that authentication. Let me just show you that. Now here in this case, what I'm going to do is let's take this here, guys. Okay, so I'm going to, this is a JavaScript thingy, so let me just put it over there, and then I'm going to just take this error, copy, paste, and fix code. Okay, now here it will again try to fix the code. It has a basic prompt in backend, connects with Azure OpenAI. You have some deployments on Microsoft Azure, and then it runs, and you can see that the error is fetch failed caused by a headers timeout error. It fix it. Now let's again do a reset, and now let's try one more error quickly. Maybe let's look at this error and see if it gets it. I'm doubtful of that, but let's have a look. So now the next is value error. Let's put it over here, fix code, and you can see it fixed it. There's a corner provide an upload for other them. Now you have done this 4 times, so your free trial. Now you have done the 4 times. Now let's do last time here. Come over here and let's take this LangChain code and see what we get. So I'm just going to come over here and paste the entire error. Let's see. So let's do that. Now, once I do it now, it takes me to the payment page because it says that your free trial has been expired. So you cannot test it out anymore in free. So there's one thing that I don't have yet, maybe a dashboard kind of a thing where you can, from beginning, you can have, just you have to pay, then you can only use. But I have kept 4 free trials, 4 times you can try in free. And then after that, you have to look at a payment option. So you have to pay for it. You have to put your card in place and then you have to pay. So for that, I am utilizing Stripe, where I have created an individual account on Stripe in free without any cost, have connected with my bank account, and also I have first authenticated with LinkedIn, have done all my KYCs, and you can see my secret key that I'm using in the code. By the way, I will not show you, but we have a real app working here, guys. Now in this payment options, we have 3 options: monthly plan, quarterly plan, and annual plan. You have built this kind of an SaaS application, of course, with a lot of other features that you have to bring it in to call it as a SaaS. But the idea is to give you that how you can build your own startup or a venture or a product powered by generative AI. Okay, because investors are putting money like anything when it comes to generative AI nowadays. Now you can build this kind of service for software development life cycle, for code generation, code conversion, right? Legacy programming languages to a modern programming language, code refactoring, code review, blah, 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 a hell lot of other things. How you can look at a monthly plan. For example, I am saying, okay, $5 per month, it will have around 100 hits. You can try it at least 100 times. Then you have quarterly plan, which is $12 per quarter. Now you can do around 500 hits or something. And then you have annual plan per year where you can do 10,000 hits. Unit economics that has to be calculated here. You have to look at how the token costs are, that I'm also working. There's an application that I'm building. I will share that video soon. I will post it maybe in the next video or something, that how you can build an application to count tokens and create some scenarios for enterprises to recommend them that, hey, look, if this is your scenario, then this is what it's going to cost you. So here in the suppose, for example, if I say, okay, I'm going with monthly plan, you have to click on pay with card. Now, once you click on pay with card, you can look at this default kind of a card, of course, which is by Stripe again. Here you can put your email. I'm going to put anything like, AI anytime or something like that. Then you put your card number. I don't have a card number. You can see automatic credit card billing is disabled because this form does not use a secure connections. We are not looking at some secure connection. We haven't done it yet, but you can do that if you want to also extend it through Stripe documentation. Now here you can pay it. It's live. You can see this is live. We have live mode. Even in developers, we have live mode. So you have test mode or live mode. So this is live mode. I'm not going to pay it, by the way. Okay, but you can pay this, authenticate. You'll get an OTP, one-time password, and you can do that. So this is what we are going to build in this video, guys. Okay. So end to end, we'll start with the database authentication, some browser fingerprinting, and this Flask application in backend that you see, and the front end is like a bootstrap. I'm not going to focus more on the front end. But don't worry, the entire code will be given on my GitHub repository. So now let's start, let's start building this and see how we can build a SaaS kind of an application where you can have your own venture startup if you are looking to build something in this area. Okay, so you can see currently I am in this folder called Code Bug Fixer, and this is going to be our working directory. We are going to write all of our codes here. I will not write all the codes. We'll take a few snippets from my GitHub gists just to save some time, and will not be writing any UI code in this, okay, the bootstrap thing, but I will explain everything. So what I'm going to do, open this in terminal, and first is to go inside venv/scripts and just activate, and couple of dots to come out of it, and let's go inside VS Code, code dot, and yes, and here we'll be writing our code, guys. So let me just close this, and let me just clean this, by the way, and let me first show you what are the things that we need. Okay, to work, you can see that I have a folder, a file called app.db. Probably you will not need that app.db. You will not see that app.db when you are running it for the first time, by the way, because I already have created a database. I have ran it earlier. That's why I see this DB file. If you don't see it, don't worry. When you run it for the first time, that DB will be created automatically. Okay, you can see a file called config.py. This is nothing but it holds our API keys. So we are going to use Azure OpenAI, GPT-3.5 Turbo, and Stripe. So both the API keys are there inside config.py. There is a this file will be uploaded on GitHub, but of course there will be no API keys within it, so you can just look at that for reference. And then we have requirements txt. For this we need only three things. We are relying on Flask. We are building a Flask app. We have OpenAI, and then we have Stripe. These are the things that we are working with. We are not working with LangChain as a framework here, but maybe you can use LangChain if you want to really do a couple of things like better prompt engineering, etc. You can do that with LangChain. Yeah, and then I have a templates folder which kind of contains 4 HTML file, very much self-explanatory. So if you look at login HTML, that's the page which first has a login page, and then we have something called index HTML. Now this takes you to that page when we authenticate and go inside that app. Okay, that the code bug fixer as a service. You can have a look at the name, and then we have couple of files called payment HTML that have all the logic of Stripe that's coming from their documentation. And then we have something called charge HTML. That's once it gets successfully charged, then it comes that charge HTML, the block that you see, the window where we put our card details and all. Now that holds charge HTML. All of this will be available as it is on GitHub repository. Just for your information, we are using Bootstrap here. You can do the same with React, Angular, etc. But I'm not a web technologies guy, so I don't know. So I don't know about those frameworks and libraries. So I have done with Bootstrap. This easy to do, a little bit of CSS, etc. to have this ready. Now let's create a file called app.py. So this is what I'm going to do here, create a file called app.py. So let me just do that, app.py file. So in app.py we have to import a few things. The first thing I'm going to import is from Flask import Flask, because it's going to be a Flask application, and then it's going to be request. And what else we need is we're going to render some template. So render template, we have Jinja 2, etc. What really happened? Let me go to app.py. Okay, so the flow will be like this: login to the page, the code fix that page that we have, Windows, and then we have our Stripe thingy. Okay, so you need SQLite. So we are using SQLite in this video, but you can have a real kind of a database with somewhere on cloud or no SQL like MongoDBs and etc. You can do that. Now from Flask import Flask. The next thing is import OpenAI. We are going to use Azure OpenAI as I said earlier. We also want to import that file called config, which is here. You can see config.py, and then we need regular expression for error handling or stuff something on the front end if required, the doc string or string, etc. And then hash slave, it's required for your password hashing, etc., etc. Then we have SQLite 3 that comes default with Python. You do not have to install separately. And then we have import Stripe that you have to install by pip install Stripe. Now yeah, so okay, let's initiate a app. So I'm going to initiate a Flask app here. That's how you initiate a Flask app. You can also use Fast API, by the way, if you want, but that will be a little different in a way, right? So Flask, okay, I forgot to initialize the app here. It was suggesting me, by the way. Okay, now we have initialized the app Flask. Now I'm going to use a major chunk of my code from my gist. So just to save some time, but I will explain what those functions really do, because I'm not that focusing on the database thing and all. Okay, so first thing is const py. Let me just copy this thing here. Okay, I'll show you what I'm copying from here, and I'm just going to paste this. Now if you see, we are just getting it from config. So if we have imported config here, import config, and it says openai.api_base config.api endpoint. Now these three things are coming from that file. So make sure that you should have these three things: API endpoint as it is defined, API key, and Stripe test key. You can change the name over there and make sure that the name matches over here. Now this is the Azure OpenAI version, and I was defining the type that from which OpenAI key I'm using, like it's from Azure or it's from OpenAI by default. Now we have to make a connection, guys, with the database. Okay, like it's not really a kind of a real-time kind of a scalable database, but we are doing it locally, so let me just come here and copy this. Let me just do a raw, and I'll just do a control A and control C. There are 4 functions that I'm using. I will explain you what those 4 functions are. We'll keep it very simple, the way we are doing our Stripe logic, that how we are going to check that if the end user hits 3 times in a runtime in a browser. And also let me explain that what we are doing here. So I have a function called initialize database. Now what it does, it creates a cursor over here, and it has a connection with appdb. If you don't have this, it will get created for the first time, and it says create table if not exist user. So if there is no users inside that table, inside that db, then you create new table. Okay, if there's nothing inside for the first time, by the way, then what it does, it uses a technique called fingerprint. So in fingerprint, what it does, in browser, when you are in runtime, it creates an UUID, through that fingerprint techniques for all of your, the end user that we have in a particular browser. That's what it does. So what it does, it's fingerprint text primary key, and that we have something called uses counter. We'll count the number of uses, if it's 2 hits, if it's 3 hits, if it's more than 3 hits or something like that, which is an integer value. That's what we are doing over here. Then it has we are just committing it, the connection, and then closing it once it is done. That's what this function does, by the way, from line number 17 to 23. I hope you got the point. Now here we are writing the function for get fingerprint. What the get fingerprint does is, if you look at over here, it first establishes with your browser. It says, okay, request user agent.browser. Then it looks at the user agent version, and then it has a different platform we have, right? We have different type of browser also, Chrome, Mozilla, etc., etc. Now what it does, it kind of holds that in a string, all the values, the browser, the version, and the platform, and that's how it creates a fingerprint, basically a digital fingerprint in that browser. It's really a fascinating and intuitive techniques to understand, guys. Fingerprint, you can do a search on internet and read more about it. Now what we are doing here is we are doing a SHA-256 with hash slib that we have imported on top, encoding it, and then we are printing it in the browser. You can print it, in the terminal you can print it, and then we are returning that particular fingerprint in that session that we have. Okay, now we also have one more function that is called get uses counter, which takes that fingerprint as an input parameter. Now this fingerprint is now as an input parameter in this function that will help us get the uses counter. So because we are going to have default as 3, where after 3 uses or 4 uses you have to pay money for that. Your free trial will end. Now what it does, it says select users counter from users where fingerprint equals to question mark first. It will fetch that fingerprint over here. You can see fingerprint.fetch one. Then close that, find the result is none. Then create a connection again with the app.db, insert into a table with your fingerprint and users counter if there is no such result available, and else return result the first result. That's what it does. And then we have a function called def update users counter. So let me just bring my monitor here. Yeah, so now what this function does is update users counter. It updates the user count of the users, like how many times the users has been hit, like it has been used, the application that we have built, and then it just update it. User set users counter where fingerprint. So very intuitive. You can just print all this also in terminal to kind of keep a track of it to understand in a more detailed way. Now this is what you need basically to find out to the number of users in a run in a session through a fingerprint, and then if exceeds, then we'll have a logic that we'll write in our index file. Now we'll have one more thing. So let me just go back on gist. Here on the gist, if you see, we have something called EY parsing, because sometimes if you have docstring etc., you might get an error. We have to handle that on the EY. So let me just write it. I don't know if we have to use that, we'll see. Now this is the function. Now we'll start writing some decorators, some endpoints that we have to deal with. So if you can see, we are working with a Flask app. So we have to write some decorator, some API endpoints. So let's do that. The first thing that we have to do is I have to do an app.route here. So let me just do, I don't know why I just written a question mark. I'm just going to do an app.route, and in this app.route, I'm going to pass and nothing here, okay, because this is going to be our default, basically a login kind of a thing, that sign in page that you see. So first time when you open this app, it will take you right there. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to write a method. So you can see it's suggesting I will have both the methods right now, get and post, and then sorry, I'll just end this. Okay, inside a list, your get and post both, and here I'm just going to write define a function called def index. Okay, so this is what our index is going to be, the login page. Now here I'm just going to do a return render template, the function that we are using, which is in Flask. Now return render template, it will just render that template and return that on the UI screen. That's what we are going to do here. Index dot, not index, by the way, file name is login HTML. Let me just do that, login HTML. Now this function is what it does, your bring your login page, by the way. Okay, so this is done. Now till here we have done. Now we'll now write the main function of our entire app that we are building, the backbone bone of this entire application. That will be basically your home function. Let's write a home function now. Okay, let's write one more decorator here, then app.route, and that will be our home. So let's do that. I'm going to write this home, and inside home again the methods. So methods, and the methods is going to be same, and we'll write a function here that's called define a function called home function, and here we'll write the logic basically for your all the logic that we have, the backbone for that particular code bug fixer that we have right inside app. Now we have to use these functions within this home function, the function that we have defined on top. The first thing that we have to do is use this function called initialize database. So let's do that. So that's what I'm going to do here, initialize database, and this is done. So we have used the first function inside the home function, guys. Now the next thing is the fingerprint. So let's have a variable here that's called fingerprint that will keep on changing based on the end user and of course the browser that they are in. Now get fingerprint. Now it's not the best technique out there, but yeah, to build a startup, it's not only technology, right? Technology does not matter, right? To be honest, without technology also people are building different kind of stuff. It depends what you really want to build. But when you want to build a Gen AI based venture, then you probably have to look at a lot of other complex and more optimized and secure techniques. fingerprint will not help you there, but this is just to show you that how you can quickly build a proof of concept, that's called POC, and how you can show it to the end user there, right? Okay, the investors, the end user, hey, this is what I am building, and then you can keep on scaling it up, with the time. So if we have the fingerprint now we'll have a variable called uses counter. So let's define that, and in this uses counter, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have something called get uses counter. So let's do that. In this get uses counter, I just going to pass the fingerprint, the variable that we have on top, because if you look at this function here, get uses counter, it looks for an input parameter that's called fingerprint, which is coming from here. That's what we have done. So we have utilized that function also. Now what we are going to do here, we're going to say, okay, if request, so let's first do that. So if request dot method equals if there is a post, so that's what I want to do here. So let me just first write it. If that's a post method, and inside this we're gonna count now of that uses counter. What I'm gonna count is if uses counter, let me just do that, greater than, let me write here 3, okay, the fourth time, because the index starts from 0, so uses counter greater than 3. Then inside this I'm just gonna write return render template payment HTML. Very simple and intuitive Python code. Now you have a file that's called payment HTML. So if the hits are more than 4, greater than 4, then you just bring that screen of the payment. That's what I'm going to do here. So let's just write return render template. So we're going to use this inside a render template that will render that particular template, and then just return on the front end use that we have payment.html. So let me just do that over here. Now this part is done. Now we are okay with it. So now let's come out of this if uses counter, and here I'm going to write, now let's have code. And in code, I'm going to use a form called request.form, and inside this, I'm just getting that code. Now, what we are doing here, you see that form where the end user will input their code snippet. That basically we are storing it in a variable called code, and then we also need one more variable called error that will have the error thingy from request.form again. So what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to copy this. So let's copy and paste. So I'm just going to paste over here. I'm going to change this code to error now. So let's do that. Okay, perfectly fine. And this is coming from the front end. So the way you define in the front end in the form, that's how to use it. Okay, so request.form. Now let's pre-process the error, because on the front end we have to handle this with replacing it over here. You can see it over the substitute, right? So read.sub, reject.substitute. If you are getting this, you have to replace that with this. So let's just do that. So what I want to do here is I'm just going to say, okay, what we can also do, let's just start like this. The reason being, because we're going to use in the next, so let me just think, because here we have okay, did not make much sense to think. Okay, now let's have error here, a variable, and inside this what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this function called preprocess error. I'm going to pass this error here. This is okay. Now this makes sense. Okay, now we have this, and now this holds your error. This variable holds your error input, and now we can gonna write a prompt. So let's just write a prompt, and inside this prompt I'm going to say inside and say, let's call this as f explain. And here you can use LangChain, you can use any other framework as well if you want to do better prompt engineering, if you want to extend this app further. But I will just keep it a simple prompt here. I'll say explain the error in this code without fixing it. Okay, and then we'll pass the code below without fixing it, and then we're going to pass our code, and let's just do that. So what I'm going to do is, here I'm going to write again f and your /n, because a line break excuse me, line break, and I'm going to pass my code here. So let's just pass the code, which is we are storing it in line number 79, the code over here. Now that is done. So what I'm going to do is /n again and your error. So let me just do error again, couple of line breaks, and goes your error here. Perfectly fine. Now this looks good to me. So let me just bring this here and end it. So it's fine. We don't have to keep it there. Now this is okay. Okay, now what I'm going to do is we are done with this now. We have our prompt set, we have both the inputs. Now we have to pass this, combine it together and give it to Azure GPT model. So let's do that now. So I'm going to have my model engine over here and I'm going to say, okay, model engine, and you use my model engine, which is AI anytime 07. This is your model engine, and inside the model engine, what I'm going to do is explanation. So let me just do explanation completions. Explanation completions is going to be your OpenAI dot chat completion. I'm using the chat completion and just create the, let's initiate, and I'm gonna pass my engine over here. So my engine is nothing but the model engine. So let's pass the model engine, and once the model engine is passed, you're gonna have a messages. Let's pass that messages, which is inside the list, and look for your key value pair. So role, and my role is nothing but the first is, let's do user, and then I'm gonna have a context, which is your prompt. So let's just do context, and your context is there with you, not context, content, the content, and this is going to be prompt. Okay, so this prompt has been passed over here, and now what I'm gonna do next is let's give a max token. So here gonna pass max token, some of the inference parameters that you can use it. I'm gonna keep it low here, 1024. Going to have n equals 1, and let's keep a temperature as well. I'm going to keep temperature as 0.2, a very less temperature. For coding purposes, you do not have to keep your temperature higher. The lower, it's better, when it comes to coding, or for use cases like software development life cycle. You don't want it to become really creative and then start hallucinating. Okay, so explanation completions. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a variable called explanation. Inside this explanation, we're going to use that explanation completions that we have created, and then we're going to use choices. The first choice, and then the message, and that content. Okay, so I'm gonna use message. So let me just do a message and dot content. Okay, so this looks nice, and now after this we'll have a fixed code prompt. So let's just also write that fixed code prompt, because this is for one part which is for explaining that. Now we also have to fix that. So what we're going to do is, now let's have a fixed code prompt as well. So I'm just going to copy this thingy over here. I'm just going to copy this prompt thing. So let's copy, bring it over here, just do hit an enter, and here before the prompt I'm just going to write your fixed code prompt or something. So let's just write fixed code prompt and explain the error in this code without fixing it. No, let's just write a simple thing like fix the code. Now fix the code. Okay, fix the code, very simple. By the way, you should probably make better prompt engineering here. If you want to do that, let me just bring it all together in one line. Does not make much sense. So fix this code, and let's have we do not need it for now, this here. So fix this code, and then couple of line break, /n error, and then goes your error. So this looks nice. Let me just bring a dot here. Okay, now this looks nice. Respond only with the fixed code. Okay, we can also put something like we can say one more. So let me just see. So F, and then again one line break probably, and then I'm going to write respond. So let's just do respond the code, or respond only with the fixed code or something. Respond only with the fixed code. Now this makes sense, fixed code, and that's it. So this is done. Now we have a fixed code prompt over here, and we're going to again create something like this guy. So why not copy this as they have been copying a lot in this video, not writing a lot of code, but it's fine. And in this explanation completions, we're gonna write fixed code completion or something like this. So let's just do that. So fixed code underscore completions, and then model engine is fine, message is fine, and this is not going to be your prompt now. This is going to be your fixed code prompt, not code completions, by the way. Fixed code prompt, not fixed. Okay, it's fixed, so it's fixed here on line number 95. Okay, max tokens looks good, temperature looks good. Now this looks good. Now this is fine. Now the same thing over here that we have written here, now let's copy this and paste it over here, and now this explanation becomes fixed code. So let's just do that. So I'm going to just do fixed code, and in fixed code I'm just going to write fixed code completion. So let's do that. Fixed code completion, excuse me, fixed code completions. It's fixed, it's not fixed, it's fixed. So let's just do fixed code completion. Or should we change it over here just to make it like just to maintain some uniformity, right? So fixed code and fixed code. Okay, now this is fine. And now here what I'm gonna do is, now we have to look, we have to not we have to track that in the browser, that if the end user is hitting it for the more than 4 times. So what I'm going to do is we're going to use that variable called uses counter, and we're going to just do a +1 every time. So uses counter plus equals 1. Let's print that. If you want to keep it, you want to keep a track of that in terminal, print uses counter, and then I'm going to update that. So update uses counter, and then I'm going to have fingerprint. So let's just do a fingerprint, and apart from fingerprint I'm going to have my uses counter. Fantastic. So we are okay with this. Now once this is done, I'm going to return that page, which is your index HTML. So let's just return your render template. So return render template here, and inside render template I'm just going to write index HTML, and after index HTML I'm going to write explanation, and your explanation is nothing but explanation, and your fixed code is nothing but your fixed code, and your code is nothing but the code. So let me just do code, and your error is nothing but the error. So let's just do error. Let me do an Alt G to come out of it. Okay, and this way you can come out of this if. Let's do a return thingy over here. So return render template, and I'm just going to return index HTML. So render template, and just going to return the index HTML over here. And we are okay with this, guys. Now so we have written this main function, which is our main function, which is for code bug fixer, and also looks at your uses count and then keep on appending it, and if you hit more than 4 times it takes you to the payment page. Now this is done. Now we have one more function to write, which is for stripe logic with Python. So let's do that. So I'm just going to bring the gist again back here, and you can see I have something called stripe function.py. I'm just going to open this inside. Let me just do that. I'm just going to open this in raw. I'm just going to Control A, Control C, and here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to write one more function, and so we have to, for that function basically you do not have to worry about a lot. So I'm just paste it and then I will explain. So if you see here what we are doing, we have a function called app.route, which is your charge endpoint. It only looks at post method. What it does, it looks at your amount, which is an integer value anytime we get it from the form, which is like $5, $12 and $50. Then it has a plan, which is like which plan, it's a string. So we are just doing some kind of better data validation, type validation. And then we have two things, which is customer and charge. So what we are doing here is inside customer we are saying, okay, use the stripe module that we have imported on top. You can see stripe, and inside this stripe module, and then you have stripe.customer.create. We are creating it through the stripe email and the stripe token. That's what we are doing. And in the Stripe payment intent create, we're using the customer.id, the ID of customer, the amount, the currency, and the description. You can put any description you want, and then just returning that charge.html that we have in here with amount and plan. Now this is what we need. We have to now, what we have to do is just have to end the like run the app. So just the name and equals, then you have underscore underscore. What was that? We have initiated name. Okay, fine. So name equals main function. So main, and inside this, then you run app.run, and inside app.run you just say debug equals true. You're gonna to port and all, you can do it localhost, etc., everything, verbose and all. Now debug equals to true. Now we are done with our code, guys. So I will explain you something before I run this code. You will be having questions on Stripe. Now what you have to do is you have to create your account on Stripe. Okay, so it's very easy to create your account on Stripe. You can see, no, not here. You can, I have created my with my LinkedIn. You can see, you can also, if you have your own business, it's better you can create your business account. Now you can also create in your individual capacity. Now Stripe provides payment in more than 100 countries, if I'm not wrong, and India is being one of them. It's very old. I think when I was doing my engineering back in 2014 or something, I was, that time Stripe was not, you know uh, accepting payment in India, if I'm not wrong. Okay, at least. And but now we have all the options. So Stripe you can use. What you have to do is you have to create your account, do all of your KYCs through your, if you are in India, you have to give your PAN card. If you are in the United States, you have to give your SSN, driver license, etc., etc. Once you do your KYC, you have to link your bank account. You have to give your valid service region. Why are you going to take payment on Stripe? Like you can say, okay, personal consultancy, etc., if it's an individual. And then once you are done, you have to come here on for developers. They have something called test mode, but you can activate it through live mode. You can see it over here. So I am done for live mode, and you have to copy this secret key. You can see the secret key on the developer dashboard. You can also create a new, you can see the developer over here. Let me just do a right click and open it over here. Now once you go inside developers, it will take you to a new dashboard. You can see that it's opening it for me. It's called dashboard stripe.com/developers. Now you can see I can accept a live payment. You can see I haven't done anything yet, but I have a API request 16 times successful. And you can, this is your developer dashboard. You can see you can do two or three things. You can also set a webhooks, so it will automatically get reflected if anything happens, and then you have API keys. You can take your API keys and you have to put your API keys here in config.py, and also have to put it in payment HTML in the front end as well through some env or something. So two places. You will get that on my GitHub repository where do you have to make the changes. Okay, now once your Stripe is done, you are okay with it. So for authentication we have SQLite 3, SQLite, but you can also use any other database you want. Now we are done with our coding, guys. Now let's run and see what app we have built, and if you are able to just run and process it. So let's now run this application. Opening my terminal, and in the terminal you can see my virtual environment has been already activated. Now here I'm just going to do python app.py. So let's just do that, python app.py. And once I do that, what it will do, it will take me, it will say, okay, running on HTTP 5 localhost 5000. So now I'm going to come here and just going to say localhost 5000. And once I do that, it takes me to the sign in page, and you can see that we have something called email address. I'm just going to do AI anytime 07@gmail.com. I'm going to give my password and just log in. Once I logged in, you can see that we have code bug fixer as a service. We are providing this as a service. Everything is as a service now, guys. We have prompt as a service, Gen AI model as a service, API as a service, AI as a service, everything as a service now. Okay, so we have this code bug fixer as a service where you have your prompt enter code. So let's enter some code, by the way, and I'm just going to come over here, just quickly show you, because we are doing the same again, but I'll just show you that it works. So let me just fit it over here, and let's see if we get any error, by the way. Okay, so we can also check that. Now here I'm just going to do that, Control C, Control V, and just going to fix code. Now probably what I will do, if I click on this right now, because I already have that database where I was it will already take me to payment page. But let's see. You can see it's good, by the way, in that case, because it took us to the payment options. You can see the monthly plan, the quarterly plan, and the annual plan. Now here, once I click on pay with card, it takes me to this Stripe payment gateway kind of a thing, where I can put it. It's not redirecting you to Stripe payment gateway, but it has been integrated into it. Now here you have to pay your email and your card number and CVC, etc., and then pay $5 and it will come to your account, by the way. Now I'm just gonna cut this now. You can also look at for $12. You can also look at for annual plan, which is $50 per year. Now, even if you have 20, 30 customers in beginning, not only code bug fixer, code conversion, code generation, code refactoring, automated test cases, generate some test cases based on some scenarios, build a platform and just sell it off, guys. Just an idea that you can work on. Now, here is what I have to do now. Let me show you a trick what we can do now. I don't want to delete the database there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, you can see I have something called DB browser SQLite. I'm just going to open it and open my database. And here in the database, this is not a ethical way of doing things, but I just want to show you something in the how I can what I can do here now is, okay, I'll just upload this app DB, and once I go into browse data, you can see the uses counter as 4. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to make this 0 and click outside of it, Control S, and I'll just going to delete this, and I'm just going to controls and again run the app python app.py and just go back to localhost 5000 and again AI, excuse me, AI anytime 1 2 3 4 5 enter code, and now let's see what I'm going to do. But all these are like right now dummies, the credentials and all, so you don't have to worry about it. But in production, if you are doing something, even if you are building a POC just to show it to some investors, then you have to probably do it in a little scalable way. Okay, you have to scale this a bit. Now let me just put it over here and see. And you can see we got our result. Fantastic, right? So what I did, guys, I went into the database. Okay, I uploaded my database and made it 4 to 0 and just refreshed it, right? So the error is a fetch failed error caused by a header's timeout error. It's likely that the API request is taking too long time to respond. Now this is what code bug fixer as a service, right? This is you're building a platform here, as a service here that you can sell it off to customers, and you can raise some kind of fundings and all if you want to really do it. And once you do it for the 4th time, it will say that, okay, your free trial has been ended, and it will take you to the payment page. Now let me just do a reset over here. Once I do a reset, it will all disappear. This is what I wanted to show you in this video, guys. I wanted to basically show you that you can think beyond doing things in Jupyter Notebook, to be honest, and you can build some applications, some kind of service, extend this further, work on your ideas and projects, because generative AI, is, of course, it's a huge potential. There is no doubt, but I know we call it like, I don't know if this is an hype. I don't think this is an hype, because I myself as a practitioner, I don't see this as a hype. It has a immense potential, and you can take advantage of it in your career, to be honest. Keep working on it and keep developing solutions. If you have any question, thoughts, feedbacks, please reach out to me. You can also drop your thoughts and feedbacks in the comment box, and you can reach out to me through my social media channels on YouTube banner and about channel. You can find it all the credentials. Please like, comment and subscribe to the channel, share the video and channel with your friends and to peer. That's all for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next one.